Nowadays, Brazil is home to several champions of the Indianapolis 500, including one of the greatest drivers in the event's history. However, until 1989, the country's situation in the race was quite different. No Brazilian had ever won the iconic race until Emerson Fittipaldi arrived. The driver challenged the biggest names at the Brickyard and placed the country in the Hall of Winners of the 500 miles, paving the way for a new generation of drivers in the legendary race. In 1989, the administration of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway repaved the entire track for the 70th edition of the 500-mile race, a process that had not been undertaken since 1976. The new asphalt required Goodyear to develop new tires specifically for the race. After a first qualifying day with rain, the following days proceeded without problems, and the drivers were able to qualify. On bump day, the surprise came with Johnny Rutherford. The three-time 500 champion was outpaced by Rich Vogler, and in his final qualifying attempt, his engine exploded. The pole position was secured by Rick Mears' powerful Penske, with Al Unser Sr. of Team Galleys beside him in second position. The 85's 500-mile champion Danny Sullivan started only in 26th position after suffering an accident during qualifying. Completing the front row was Emerson Fittipaldi with Patrick Racing, also running a Penske chassis. In the second row were the surprise Jim Crawford, followed by Mario Andretti and Scott Brayton. Besides Andretti, Sullivan, and Mears, the 1989 edition of the race also featured champions like Al Unser Sr., with almost 50 years old, Bobby Rahal, Tom Sneva, Gordon Johncock, and the legendary A.J. Foyt. Among the rookies were Scott Pruitt, Didier Thays, Bernard Jourdain, and John Jones. This edition was also marked by being the first in history to offer a $1 million prize to the winner. On May 28, 1989, the sun shone brightly over the Indianapolis circuit, and the stands were packed with spectators. During the warm-up lap, Scott Brayton, Gary Bettenhausen, and Rocky Moran had problems, and of the three, only Bettenhausen could not start. Right after the green flag, Emo took the lead with Mears and Al Unser Sr. right behind. Emerson's pace was impressive, and the Brazilian was able to build a significant lead while Unser was pressured by Mario. On the third lap, Kevin Cogan lost control of his march after touching the wall in turn 4. Out of control, the car crashed violently into the inner wall of the main straight, right at the pit lane entrance. The wrecked car slid, split in two, and only came to a stop inside the pit area. Despite the severity and destruction of the crash, Cogan managed to walk away from the car as the yellow flag was waved. On lap 15, the race resumed, and Mario overtook Mears for second place, while Johncock retired with engine problems. When the main pack reached the first backmarkers, Little Al took advantage of the situation and also passed Mears, taking third place. Teo Fabi retired on lap 23, and the following lap, it was Randy Lewis's turn to leave the race. Mears, in turn, continued to lose positions, falling to 5th. Michael Andretti, who had started in 21st position, began to climb up, passing Bobby Rahal and Al Unser for 4th place. With the first round of pit stops, Fittipaldi remained in the lead, followed by Andretti's Mario and Michael, Mears in 4th, Little Al in 5th, and Al Unser in 6th. Danny Sullivan retired on lap 42, while Little Al passed Mears. Emo continued to dominate the race, while Al Unser Jr. advanced on Michael, who in turn chased his father, overtaking him for 2nd place. With a bunch of backmarkers ahead, Little Al also passed Mario, taking 3rd place. In a small window of time, 4 drivers had issues. Tom Sneva experienced problems during his pit stop and retired from the race. Bobby Rahal suffered mechanical problems on the track, triggering a second yellow flag. John Andretti and Al Unser also had problems during their pit stops, and their race ended there. On the restart, Michael tried to catch up to Fittipaldi, but he couldn't. During another pit stop, Mario Andretti also found problems, but in his case the problem wasn't big enough, and the driver was able to return. After 96 laps and another round of pit stops, Emerson was in front, followed by Michael, Little Al, Mears, and Crawford. With the Brazilian's pit stop, Michael took the lead, and on lap 113, Mears retired with a blown engine, causing another yellow flag. The race was around 121 laps complete when Al Unser Jr. and Michael made their stops, giving Emerson the lead again. Meanwhile, both Pancho Carter and Arie Luyendyk retired, causing another yellow flag and a new opportunity for Emo to pit. The Brazilian was caught off guard by a mistake from his team during the pit stop, which cost him valuable time and the race lead. With 135 laps complete, Didier Thays and Jim Crawford retired, while the battle between Emerson, Michael, and Al Unser Jr. heated up, with the Brazilian having the advantage. On lap 153, Michael retook the lead, followed closely by Emo. Little Al wasn't as fast, but kept up with the fight from a distance. With 37 laps to go, Michael's engine gave out and broke, furthering the Andretti curse without wins at the Indy 500. With the new yellow flag, the fight for the lead was between Emerson and Unser Jr., with the rest of the pack 6 laps down. On the restart, the Brazilian kept the lead, while Little Al lost pace and solidified in second, increasingly falling behind. Raul Boesel and Scott Brayton made new stops, virtually abandoning the hopes of victory. On lap 181, Taro Palmroth lost one of his wheels in turn 4, causing the penultimate yellow flag of the race. Emerson took advantage of the moment and went to the pits for his final stop, but Patrick Racing made another mistake. Team bosses Pat Patrick and Chip Ganassi were nervous in the paddock, and during refueling they ordered a full tank instead of just enough to finish. To make matters worse, the car almost stalled on the exit and a service truck briefly blocked ammo. At this point in the race, Gallas decided to take a big gamble. Little Al was in a distant second, and the team decided to keep him on track. With Emerson's stop and the yellow flag, Unser was able to close all the distance against the Brazilian. With 20 laps to go, Emmo found himself forced to fight Unser Jr. for the win with a heavier car, which leveled the playing field. At the restart, the American got stuck behind Boesel and remained in that situation for 2 laps. The Brazilian's car had a leaking engine and hadn't blown up purely by luck. With only 7 laps to go, Little Al overtook Fittipaldi, but shortly after, a group of backmarkers appeared in the Galles driver's path. The momentary blockage stole precious time from the American, giving Emmo the perfect chance to close in and share turn 3 with Unser. In the middle of the turn, the cars touched and the American got the worst of it, losing control and hitting the wall while Emerson remained on track. Without much more time left, the last yellow flag of the race was raised, concluding the event, and the crash that led to the Brazilian's victory made headlines worldwide. Despite the accident, Unser Jr. finished second due to the laps ahead of the rest of the grid. Boesel managed the nearly broken engine and brought the car home in third, 6 laps behind the leader. Finishing in the top 10 were Mario Andretti, AJ Foyt, Scott Brayton, Davy Jones, Rich Vogler, and rookies Bernard Jourdain and Scott Pruitt. Despite the controversial finish and Unser Jr.'s on-track protest, the victory solidified the Brazilian's standing in the category and was warmly welcomed by the fans. Until that moment, Fittipaldi's victory was only the 9th time a foreigner had won the 500 miles, with the last being in 1969 and the first non-American win since Graham Hill in '66. Emerson also became the 4th F1 champion to win the 500 miles, sharing the mark with Jim Clark, Graham Hill, and Mario Andretti. Besides all this, it was also the first time a Brazilian won the iconic race, literally paving the way for generations to come. Little Al had to wait a bit more. Victory at the 500 miles came for the American 3 years later, racing for the same Galles team in 1992. If you enjoyed the video and want more information about Formula 1, IndyCar, and other motorsports, subscribe to the channel. Questions, suggestions, or tips are always welcome. Feel free to leave them in the comments below. Thanks for watching.